In this video, we'll be discussing the vehicles I regret buying the most, or more generally, the vehicles I regret owning. So let's go on from 10 to 1, meaning the number 1 is going to be at the end of the video. So let's get into it, guys. Number 10 for me would have to be the Overflow Xeno. This thing came out with the contract DLC update for $2.8 million, so almost $3 million. The car came out during the snow, right? Because the contract DLC did come out during the winter season, and the snow is on the floor. And Rockstar didn't give this thing the best introduction. This car actually had an issue with it flipping over on bumps. Now, if you're a person who's somewhat competitive, you would never take this thing on a race, knowing in the back of your mind that this thing could flip over at any second when you hit the bumps in the races. So it kind of put this fear in my mind that the car would actually flip over or just get stuck on the bump. And this would happen at random times. It may go over one bump and then get stuck or flip on the other bump. That's something I did not want to deal with, so therefore this just had to make the list. Now this is the Hot Ring Everon, and I must say Rockstar should have did something a little bit more different with this one. I didn't think that they actually necessarily made a good effort here. It drives a lot like the Hot Ring Saber, so it feels like I'm just buying a reskinned Hot Ring Saber with a bed on the back of it. So I know that it's supposed to feel the same, but there is no unique feeling to it. A truck and a car should never feel the same, but I do get what Rockstar did. It is the same thing, but I just wish I didn't buy it. If I didn't make YouTube videos, there's a lot of videos that I wouldn't have, and this is definitely one of them. And I must say, I regret this. The 8th position goes to the weaponized Ignis, and I do believe this is the only HSW vehicle on this entire list. So the problem with the Ignis is the weaponized Ignis. This thing cannot do time trials anymore for some reason. Tons of people have commented that on my videos, and I've said, that's strange. And it's actually still an HSW vehicle, so I can't use it for time trials. I used it before, but just seems that Rockstar may have altered something. But yeah, other than the fact that its only difference is that big weapon on the top of it, that's the only difference between it and the regular Ignis. And look, there's not that big of an angle you could actually aim at with the weapon. So you're better off just sticking your hand out the window and just actually trying to do it yourself. But nonetheless, it is pretty quick. I wish they would have given the HSW capabilities to the regular Ignis, which actually needs it. Because when I'm in the Ignis, I do not think about shooting people. Next on the list, and I bet you couldn't tell me what model of the Baller this is. The Gallivanter Baller is one of those vehicles that you see, okay, the first one is cool. The second time is cool. And then more and more. So the only thing that they changed with the Baller ST, which is on this one, is the added option of the interior being able to be colored whatever you choose. And they have free liveries. This came out with the contract DLC as well. And it's actually slower than some of the previous Ballers that we had in the past. So this thing did not make any sense. And personally, my favorite is the Gallivanter Baller Armored, which offers pretty much the same thing as this with the interior, and it's actually having armor capabilities, so it can take 1 or 2 missiles and a couple of rounds of explosive ammo, and I'll still be able to get out. This is still a regular vehicle. I do think that 1 missile will take this thing down. So yes, this makes a substantial pick on this list. Next vehicle is the Benghazi Tesseract. Is one of the vehicles that I must remember every time on YouTube because I couldn't play Grand Theft Auto Online at the time. But by the time I got to it, unfortunately, it's just not the same. Of course, it aged horribly. It's an electric vehicle, fully electric, of course. And with HSW and then some of the other cars that came out, I would highly take even a regular Cyclone over this. But with the Cyclone 2 and then the Virtue, then the EGT, there's more cars coming out that could wipe the floor with this thing. So I kind of regret purchasing this. Even when I purchased it and some of those vehicles that I just mentioned weren't out yet, I kind of realized this thing is getting pretty old pretty quickly. So it's just one of those vehicles that you just look and say, the memories with this one. So yeah, I just regret it. But I would never purchase this thing again if I had to restart from scratch. Let's move on to the next vehicle, which is the Willard Ecuadora. Now, this one is one of those vehicles that I have an issue with. With most older vehicles, I prefer timeless styling. You can look at this and a modern vehicle, and you definitely say this is definitely older. Now, Rockstar did add the capabilities to use this thing actually as a taxi with the Mercenaries update. And that's actually good for those who actually like driving this type of vehicle around. And I'm simply one of those people who just don't like this type of vehicle. So it's pretty much personal preference. I just prefer not to drive this type of vehicle. And let's get on to the next vehicle, which is the Obey iWagon. Now this one, oh my goodness, this vehicle is so underwhelming. Rockstar should have done a better job with this thing. With cars like the Cyclone 2 coming out, and then the EGT coming out, and then the Virtue, as I mentioned previously, this thing should have been a much quicker, at least 50% faster than how it actually is. This thing is very slow. Look at the interior on the car that they released. They did this to certain vehicles where you never expected to have that type of interior, so I guess it kind of keeps you on your toes. So I wonder what interior it has. But I honestly think that Rockstar should just stop this foolishness and just put in a good interior in the vehicles. An Audi would never have this type of interior, unless it's from the older generations. But yeah, the next vehicle, the Benefactor Low Cost. As you can see, this is similar looking to the Benefactor SM722, but the 722 actually came out after this. So I wish Rockstar would have did something to keep the two of them on par with each other by adding either a Benny's customization options to this one, or even better, an HSW option. And HSW would definitely be more appropriate for this vehicle. So an HSW option would give this thing a speed boost it needs to keep up with something like a 722. So if Rockstar adds these features, it will definitely meet the expectation that you get from looking at the vehicle like this. And this thing was actually a GTA Plus vehicle for a month, right? So you had to pay $5 and you get this vehicle. Now I do think that Rockstar should have did that before did the HSW thing or the Benny's thing before actually doing this. So I still regret purchasing it because I thought it was something it's not. Next vehicle is the Comet S2. Now this vehicle came out with the tuners update, and I must say a modern Porsche would have been great. So for the duration of the tuners update, this thing was amazing. I didn't expect too much of it, and it was fairly stacked against the performance. Stacked against the competitive cars that were also in the tuners class. But after the update, it got nerfed, and that's when I started to see all the shortcomings of this vehicle. You can customize it to do whatever you want to do. Race car, luxury, you can actually take off the bumpers, put have big turbos showing at the back. But I must say this thing has such horrible speed. I wish I didn't touch this thing. The Comet S2 Cabrio is a different story, of course. Convertible, much better. I do prefer a drop top Porsche rather than the hard top. But it is what it is. I've stated this in some of the reviews that I made of this vehicle that I really don't like it too much ever since it's been nerfed. But it is what it is. I guess you have to do it. But nothing I hate more or regret more than the Slam Van tow truck. Oh my goodness, Rockstar dropped the ball on this. Now, for those who have followed me, which is since then, which is not a lot of people, right? So I haven't touched this thing since I reviewed it, and I must say that this video is the only time I actually remember that I had this thing. This thing was also a GTA Plus vehicle, and why would Rockstar give such a lackluster vehicle for GTA Plus? You can't put anything on the back. If you put anything on the back, it slides off. The truck, which is a tow truck, right? Of course, it's not gonna have good performance because who expects top tier performance from a tow truck? You must be crazy to actually think that that's gonna happen. So it's not the best. Yeah, you have a little wheel spin here and there if you get sideways too much. But Rockstar actually did itself a favor by actually including like a magnet feature for this vehicle. So what vehicles do you think should have been on here? Let me know down below in the comment sections. Thank you guys so much for watching.